Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the System2 podcast. I'm here with my friend Tosh. Thanks for having us in your beautiful home. Where are we, first of all?
Yeah, we're just up above Boulder in the mountains. So see Boulder right down there, but surrounded by forest. Works out pretty good, Boulder, Colorado.
It's amazing. Yeah, we made the mistake of renting a tiny Nissan, and we almost stopped up the hill, but we finally made it.
Yeah,
So it's good to see you.
it'll be easier going down.
It will be easier going down. No brakes needed. So, Tosh, tell us your story.
Story. I served in the military. I was in the Marine Corps for 21 years. And then I got out, started a small business called Cricket Butterfly Ranch. It teaches leadership and a lot of mindset strategies through experiential learning. And then recently, 6, 7 years ago, well, we're going on our 7th year, started a nonprofit to support veterans, so Big Fish Foundation. And we help veterans in a different, unique way, whether it's through transition or struggles or past trauma, non-clinical. Just really, it's reflective of my journey and my transition through the military and my struggles. And I'm just trying to collect the resources and the tools, the assets, the social network that was available to me to help me heal and grow. And I just want to make that accessible to as many other veterans as possible.
So, yeah, do you mind sharing with us a little bit more of your journey in the military and how that led you to what you're doing today?
Well, I enlisted 18 years old. Largely it was I was going to go to juvenile or join the military. So the judge said, Mr. Steinwalks, I remember him in
Was this in Rochester, New York?
Rochester, New York. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Churchville.
that's
Your neck of the woods too.
exactly. Yeah, it's a great place to be.
Yeah. And so I went down to the recruiting station and joined the Marine Corps. 9 days later, boot camp. So I was enlisted.
What year was this?
93, I went February 9th, 1993. There's just certain, my memory's terrible. People joke that I remember things that never happened. There's certain things that you just will never forget. You know what I mean?
But walk me through that. How do you go from being offered basically that choice of going to juvie or going to military? But what was going through your head? What made you decide to walk through those doors and enlist?
Yeah, I was, I got in trouble multiple times. Nothing crazy, just adolescent, misguided, not really challenged. I had a phenomenal family, plenty of mentors. I wasn't like troubled in any way. Just for some reason, just found myself getting in trouble. And it got to the point where, hey, enough is enough. Now you're going to go. You're 18 years old. You're going to spend a little bit of time in, they call it industry, the industry that's out there, juvie, or you should start thinking about the military. And I was just like, whoa, this is wild. Like what a slap. Like this is growing up. I joined the military because it was like, it was a way of getting back at my parents, who always said, oh, you need the military straighten you out, military straighten. I was like, all right, I'll show them. I'll join the military. You know what I mean? And
Show them in what way? Like show them that you were not going to just try to straighten up or that it was going to work?
no, you get threatened all the time, even though the threats are probably good for you. It's like, hey, we're going to ship you off. We're going to send you to the military. You need the military. It'll whip some discipline into you and teach you to grow up. Like, yeah. You get tired of hearing that for how many years, and I'm going to go to basically youth jail or join the military. Well, I'm going to join the military. Yeah, I'll show
Yeah.
you. I'll join the military. This is what you always threatened me with. Send me to the military. So I'm just going to do it.
Did you have anyone in the military in your family?
Nothing immediate. My grandfather served in Korea. I had an uncle and another grandfather that served Vietnam, Korea, and they were in the Navy. My first grandfather, Army. But other than that, we didn't have a military family. Yeah, so I joined. Air Force told me no because I was in trouble. I wasn't good enough. And walking out of the Air Force crew's office, the Marine grabbed me up, said, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? Sat me down, signed some paperwork. 9 days later, I'm at boot camp.
Huh.
Did
What
pretty
was boot
well.
camp? Yeah. How was that experience going from that transition is really interesting to me, right? You're going from a kid, you don't really know what you want in life. And then there's this program that's designed to put you down this path. What was that like for you?
I'm trying not to sound weird, but it was fun. It
Okay.
wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
Why wasn't it that hard? Like there was things about it that were hard. It was stressful at times, but I was in good shape. I had a very disciplinary mother and father. and you're in a platoon with 40 or so other guys, and 30 of them are getting all the attention because they're just not adjusting. So, the
Mm.
eyes are off of you for the better part. They stress you really hard for 2 weeks, and they identify the ones that they're gonna. So I kind of was able to just perform. And then halfway through boot camp or so, they start really focusing on the ones that are above average or so. And that's when but like you're already acculturated more or less. Um, I didn't find boot camp that hard. I had great drill instructors, easy, adjust pretty easy. So
Were you a sports player in high school, or how come you were in shape when you got there?
yeah, I played baseball. I wrestled a couple of years. I skied, I was always outdoors. Never really worked out, but I wasn't out of shape. People come to boot camp and they're overweight. People come to boot camp and they can't do a pull up.
Pull-ups are hard,
So
to be fair.
it's a repetition, I'd say. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Just it's not. I mean, some strength involved, but it's like you gotta
Yeah.
doing pull ups day in and day out. It's not. But if you just start doing pull ups every day, they get pretty easy pretty quick.
One day I'll get there.
Yeah,
We'll
you gotta want
exactly, exactly.
it.
No, I've been doing some pull-ups, and it's seems like a good workout, but they're not easy.
Oh, that's supposed to be.
Yeah,
That's why they're
exactly.
good.
So okay, so then okay, from boot camp, what was next?
I got selected to go to security force school, and then I got shipped to Iceland to be part of the ground defense.
Say more about that, because I'm interested in how people end up in down these paths, right? And you said you got selected, and you also said that you're doing well in boot camp. Like, what was that process like? What made you stand out to be selected?
I think you do well on your tests. You got some discipline. You're fit. You're scoring really well. They are assessing you for leadership, and they just pick you. I graduated. I wasn't going to say this, but I was number one in the class, so I was an honor grad. So
Mm.
that sets you apart a little bit. I shot well in the rifle range. You just do the things. You just do the things. So it kind of puts some attention on you. And like, oh, hey, we're going to send you to, security force school. So I went through the training pipeline post boot camp to be an infantry rifleman. I go to Damick, Virginia, graduate there, get shipped to Keflavik, Iceland for ground defense force for.
What was that like? The landing in Iceland, it doesn't look like most places on the planet.
No, it's gorgeous. I mean, we're talking 1994 at this point. By the time I finished up boot camp and all my schooling, I think late 93, early 94. And you're 18 years old, just turning 19, foreign country. It's Iceland. I mean, the duty's cool. The country, the girls were gorgeous, like it was just great. You're away from home, you're out of the country, you're in the military doing a thing. It was just awesome.
Uh,
It really was. So
and was it with the guys that you knew from your training here? Or was it a bunch of random people from all over that ended up in Iceland for that part?
I didn't go to Iceland with anybody that I went through boot camp or combat training or infantry training courses. I went to boot camp with two other guys from the security force school. So it was like walking into a brand new and I wasn't even really close to the two other guys that went there. And then when you get there, you go to one section, each of the other guys goes to a different section, and you're the brand new guy. And so all the games and all the harassment and all the things, but you're just there. It wasn't like we went with a group of 20 dudes and 5 of y'all went to the same section. So your duty cycles, your training cycles, you're just, you know,
Part of what's interesting to me about all this, and other industries have some versions of this, but it's basically like how do you form that team? How do you start forming the beginnings of that brotherhood? And I've heard people talk about, right, going through some of the shit together that then causes you to get closer. And so I'm curious, like, at what point if you look back and some of the friendships that you have today, at what point did you start forming some of those friendships? Was it as early as then, or did some of these closer friendships end up coming in later?
most of my closest friendships from the military were formed under a lot of stress in training or combat. If you're looking as a leader trying to create bonds between subordinates, I think your job is to just set environmental conditions
To
and
stress them
then,
out fully.
oh, to engage them. It doesn't always have to be stress, right? But if I had a group of 15 people and it's like, hey, I'm not going to go in, I want to make you guys friends, so I'm going to sit you down and try to architect what that looks like or engineer. I'm going to look at it from a little bigger picture. Is like, well, we're going to go do this activity and I'm going to set the conditions of the environment and we're going to design what that activity is and then let people self-select who they each other like and just sit back and observe that. And so it's like you create you want to grow great vegetables, you spend most of your time in the potting mix, right? So your job is to do the potting mix and then let the vegetables grow. And then you just sit back and you watch, you know what I mean? And then you provide the nutrients where it needs to be and you pull the weeds out that need to be pulled. You may hey, not get enough sun, so you put some artificial light in or whatever it is, right? And I think as a leader, I'm a relationship-based guy, and as a leader, setting those conditions for that to happen is the best way to success. And then you create these relationships that are really, really authentic, and then they're strong. And then you create another opportunity for them. And then as you're watching, it's like, okay, hey, it's time for me to pick a detail for something or another job for something. And while individual A and individual B have the skill sets and everything to be the best ones for it, those two aren't, they don't have quite a tight relationship. So I'm going to pick individual C who might have less skills or less of something else than individual B, but I'm going to pick A and C and put them on a team because they have this magnetism between them, this relationship, this bond that's going to carry over. Right. And so I'm always thinking about that. And then you just watch these friendships nurture. And, in the nonprofit space, it's like when we host an event, I'll make sure to invite so and so, and then I'll invite up the other person because I know that if that person's there, if they're at the event together, the things that we're going to do that
Yeah.
are supposed to help the individuals and their families is going to have so much more impact and effect on them because they're there together. Then it's not to say that having strangers isn't valuable, but just depends on the nature of the work you're doing.
And to be thoughtful about those relationships.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You do that when you create teams, right? When you're building teams to solve this or solve that, you think about, okay, who do I want on this team?
Yeah.
It's not always because they're all the smartest or because they're all the fastest at doing whatever. You consider some of these other things. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay. So after Iceland, what was next?
I came back to the States, Lejeune, infantry battalion. We went on a deployment on a ship. We were on ship for a little while. We saw a little combat. We supported some combat in Albania, Herzegovina. We went to Africa for a couple months, and we were in Liberia.
What was that first combat like for you?
It was low intensity combat conflict. They call it LIC, I suppose, or at least that's what it was coined in the 90s. Um, it wasn't like full scale war. There's some shooting. We were mostly defensive posture, securing some embassies, trade a little bit of fire here and there, but weren't necessarily on the offensive. So, but I think it was, what was it for me? Like, it was exciting. It's like, hey, bro, you're doing operational stuff. You learn a lot. I was a squad leader at the time, so you're responsible for the welfare of other human beings in a higher intensity environment
Yeah.
where like consequences are real. And then I was selected to become an officer. So, because during my time enlisted, I was doing some credits and doing this and doing that, self education, because that was what leadership is supposed to do, self betterment. You do your military schoolings and whatnot. And I looked attractive enough to get accepted for a commissioning program. So I went to finish up a degree back at RIT, actually, um, and got commissioned as an officer.
What was that transition like?
Interesting because, you're enlisted for 8, 9 years and it's like, hey, there's enlisted and there's officers and there's this and there's that. So you've got that condition in you. And then all of a sudden you're expected to be on the other side.
Do most officers come in as officers, or is it common to do what you did, where you go from being enlisted to being an officer?
It is, I don't remember the numbers, but it's like 3 or 5% of the officer corps in the Marine Corps were prior enlisted. So
Wow,
the
because that's pretty
major
rare.
commissioning
Okay.
pipeline is all direct commissions or through ROTC programs and whatever.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think the number's a little bigger now than it was back then, but, yeah, less than 10% of the officer corps would be prior enlisted.
And was that enlisted experience like helpful to you? Like, how? Yeah, did you feel like you obviously came in from a different path to get there? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, but it's double-edged sword, right? It was helpful in so many ways, but it's an Achilles in ways. Helpful how I'd been a junior enlisted Marine myself, so I had the intimacy of what the expectations were and everything of the audience that I was coming in to lead at in the
Right.
beginning, right? I knew the games, I knew the mindset, I knew the styles, the personalities. I had credibility. It's
Mm,
like, oh, hey, you're one of us, or you're one of us. Like you've been in our shoes. Like it was like, yeah. I mean, I had a stack of ribbons from all my experiences, so that I was in great shape because I'd been in the military. And so you get into military shape, and so you have like the faculties of somebody that's been around in the military for a
mm,
dozen years. Whereas, brand new, like it's a brand new lieutenant that all they know is schooling. They're still like Bambi kind of on their legs for a little
yeah.
while. I had my technical and tactical proficiency because when I commissioned, I went back into the infantry. When you go from enlisted to officer, you don't have to go back into the same occupational specialty that you were enlisted in. It was someplace that I wanted to do, so I chose to go back in the infantry community.
Well, why is that?
Part of me wanting to be an officer was because you see some of the officers that you're around, you're like, I would do it different. I would do it
Mm,
different. I don't like that. Some of that stuff was founded, and some of that stuff when you become an officer is like, oh, now I see why. I was just a little bit ignorant. So I wanted to be almost like put your money where your mouth is, right?
yeah.
Like, oh, you think you can do better? Well, then go do it. And how many times do people tell you that when they're questioning you? It's like, oh, you think you do better? Well, go do it. And
Yeah.
so I did.
Yeah.
I don't know if I did it better or not. I just thought it was important. Nothing else really interested me. I just, you're familiar with the infantry community. You've got all this knowledge and talent and experience. Well, why not take it and use it again so that you can take it further? So
What was in terms of the challenges, I imagine that having come from like the people and you're now, an officer, and but you can really relate to all the stuff that they're going through. Was it sometimes hard to like once you do see okay, there's a rationale for why, we're making them do this, but like I know being on the other side, they would really hate this decision. Was it difficult to start, just ordering them to do things because you had been on the other side?
I don't think it was difficult in that regard because, well, maybe it was a little bit, but I don't think in the sense that you're thinking right now. Because I would like take the time to explain or to inform or to educate when possible. There was a lot of trust. I spent a lot of time with trust. Like so, one of the backblades is that I was always kind of criticized or mentored to not be too close to the men because you were one of them. Like, so you still act like them sometimes. You develop bonds with them because that's your crowd. And so I was always kind of in the gray area there, sometimes not in the gray area. But I also like to think that my familiarity with the men was what continued to strengthen trust. And that trust, that instant willingness, obedience to orders, the credibility, all the things, those are that's like of being successful in combat for the things that we faced in Iraq and wherever. So, that was a criticism of me. I was just too close to the men, too close to the men, too familiar. Hey, you got
Mm,
too much enlisted in you. That's what the men trusted about me, gave me the credibility. I never found it challenging to hold men accountable or give them orders because I wasn't trying to give bullshit orders or make them do bullshit stuff. I would just talk to them like down to earth. I wouldn't try to spin or polish a shit sandwich up. Right. It was
yeah.
like, hey guys, we're going to go do this. It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't make sense not because it might not be the right thing to do. It's just because we don't understand it, but we got to follow orders. Like just the way you frame things with them, you
Yeah.
got their buy-in. Where it did, so spinning like Fallujah through combat, through OIF, through Fallujah, I would find myself putting myself kind of at greater risk,
Mm,
right? Than probably what should have been from a company commander or an officer, right? It's like, hey, that's what the men are supposed to do. That's what the men are supposed to do. You got to order them to do this. And then I would always be doing that. And that started to be where potentially, amongst other reasons, but like, hey, captains can't be kicking indoors and doing this. I mean, they can. It's not that they can't, but your value on the battlefield is this bigger picture.
mm,
And if you're doing this, then the bigger picture is not being observed. Or if something bad were to happen, that's a huge blow to the unit strength capabilities when you lose somebody and it's not about me, it's about the position, right? Like the experience and everything else. So that would be probably where I would say that, yeah, it was and could have been a negative. And fortunate enough, for whatever reason, it never got to that point. I think Pat Millay in the situation and stuff, it's like, okay, hey, it's time for you to go. And we had a transition and new job. But I was just blessed and lucky. Nothing did happen to where I'd be I tell everybody that, people talk about the ambush and, they tell, oh my God, I'm so great, so great. I'm like, yeah, we celebrate that and the award I received and this and that because it was successful.
Mm.
And we look at it like, hey, look at this is what it's meant. You're supposed to do. And I don't think I did anything wrong. I think it was exactly right. Right. But had I been killed or something bad happened, not be as successful, that whole incident would have been a case study for what not to do. Right. So it was just due to some sort of fortune or something that it was as successful as it was. And so now we get to celebrate it. Right. And which is weird.
Did you mind telling us a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. We were OAF during the invasion, and we were on the march up to Baghdad, and I was in charge of combined anti-armor team, 14 vehicles with missiles and heavy machine guns. Our job is to provide security for tanks and anti-mechanized forces, and we got ambushed. We got ambushed really bad, and just took some actions, immediate actions, as we call it, right? And we assaulted a trench line with the vehicles, and I got out and with a couple other Marines ran down a trench. And
You guys were driving on a road, or like what was the scene? How did you guys get?
yeah, Route 1. So we were the lead battalion in the entire division that was going up that Route
Okay.
1. And we were coming up into Ad Diwania. It's a hardball road. So imagine hundreds, if not thousands of vehicles behind you. Had 4 tanks in front of me, and we were the 5th vehicle, light-skinned vehicle. So we're the first light-skinned vehicle. And as we're driving along, the way the terrain was working and the tanks came under fire. And then next thing you know, we were stuck in this ambush, and mortars and rockets and machine guns all started, RPGs just started coming in on us. And
This is from buildings, or were you guys in the
from
field?
berms on the side of the
Burns?
road.
Okay.
Yeah, berms on the side of the road as we're coming into Diwania. And the vehicle behind me took an RPG hit. Corporal Quintero was seriously injured, and Doc Johnson was killed when the RPG hit the vehicle. And so I directed my driver to drive right into the ambush, immediate action drill, right? A near ambush, you turn into the fire and you assault. That's the way to do it.
What's the rationale for that?
Because you're stuck in it. They're this
Yeah.
close. You don't have space to maneuver. The tanks had stopped in the middle of the road, so we couldn't drive through the ambush. So, and it just happens in an instant. You just sort of through training, you recognize like, hey, near ambush, contact right, drive straight into it.
Holy shit!
And we
Like
drove
how
right
many
into it.
vehicles? Or is it just yours, or a
Well,
couple of vehicles?
just my vehicle drove into it. The rest of the vehicles stopped and turned, started shooting, and then trying to do the medevac and try to provide security for the tanks.
How many people were in your vehicle?
There's 5 of us: Armand, Cordy, Kerman, myself, and Franklin. And he just drove straight at this machine gun that was shooting at us, crashed the vehicle into the machine gun nest, and I just jumped out and started running down the trench. Armand was driving. He threw ammo up to Franklin, who was in the machine gun, who was shooting at the mortars. And Kerman jumped out of the vehicle and started following me down the trench. And we just ran down the dudes, bad guys, yeah. So we just started killing people. We went down the trench a couple hundred yards, and then
Like, fuck, I'm just gonna jump in like the nest full of like bad guys.
Yeah.
Like, you
Nothing.
didn't even know what to expect, right? It's not like you knew how many were in there. You just like,
We were at war, man. The job was to kill the bad guys. I just remember feeling a lot of violence, a lot of hate. You just spring into action. That's your job. Thinking about it, I've replayed it. I don't know how many hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of times, and talked about it with people like, well, could we have done this? Could we have done that? I really don't think there was anything else that we could have done. I think the outcome could have been a whole lot worse had we tried doing different things. For some reason, the sequences all filled in place. Everybody was doing the jobs. Cordy was on the radio, providing security for the vehicle. Frank was in the turret shooting the machine gun. Kerman and Armand are running down the trench with me, and just everybody's doing the things that they most best needed to do in that moment. The rest of the battalion that was behind us is getting closer and closer, and they're under fire. So they're turning the Amtraks, the mechanized vehicles, and they're unloading Marines to assault the trench. So they're off to my right. coming at us and we're going down.
Did they know that you guys were in there?
No
Like,
idea.
yeah, just
No idea.
even from like a
So
friendly fire perspective, like you guys,
yeah, bad
yeah.
geometry for sure.
Uh,
But
so what, yeah, what was going through your head as you were just running down this trench? Like, did you have time to
how
think at all,
fast
or
can you
just
fast can you fucking kill people? Ran out of ammo a couple times. And then when the head started to catch up, right, you're kind of in impulse, not the impulse mode, negative impulse mode, but like you're in reaction mode, very impulse driven. Your body's just taking over, your training's taking over, the necessary violence, aggressive action taking over, and you're responding to a threat. You're solving and you're solving. And then it's like this starts to catch up to you. It's like, whoa, the geometry's bad. Hey, nobody knows we're in here. Like, hey, I told Armand, I was like, hey, we got to turn around. Let's go back. And he's like, what are you talking about? Because there was more guys that way. I was like, yeah, we got to go back. So we turned around. We started running back up the trench to get back to the vehicle. And it had that not have happened, because as we were going back up the trench, the Marines that were in the Amtraks were assaulting the trench, were coming over the trench line. And they had no idea. Had we kept
you were
going,
there? Yeah.
would have, I don't know, just the gods just decided to help me be aware when I needed to be aware, And I don't think I was reckless or crazy. It was just just all good training experience, all the things that you want to have happen when a moment like that.
What happened when you ran out of ammo? You're in there, like, just,
I picked up a bad guy's gun, picked up an AK-47, picked up another one,
is that like
shot an RPG.
I've heard that it's not straightforward to shoot other guns. Like, that's right. Like, it's not that it's like plug and play and they're exactly the same as yours.
Yeah, they're not.
Were you
But
trained on any of them, or like you just figured out in the spot?
when we were at the basic school, at the officers' school, introductory school, so as I enlisted and then I get commissioned, I have to go through the basic school. Every Marine Corps officer has to go through the basic school regardless of background. You spend 6 months. We had some foreign weapon familiarization training, but if you think about it, if I'm running at you and you're running at me and we're both trying to kill each other, I get you. Well, your gun's ready to go. All I gotta do is pull the trigger. I mean, I don't really have to figure anything out. You know what I mean? I don't have to load it or anything. And when that gun ran out of ammo, I mean, there was plenty. There was dozens of dead guys. So just picked up another one.
And did you see you picked up an RPG as well?
Yeah, Armand, as we were going down, 'cause Armand was a little bit behind me because there was bad guys coming down as well because we were behind them. So had he had not been a little bit behind me, and the way the trench line worked like this, it was an irrigation canal that had a berm. And so there was like a pathway up above where water would have been in the ditch.
Okay.
And they were using that, but then there was a berm to protect it from the road for whatever reasons, wind or whatnot. They were using that berm to defend. And so when I jumped down out of the vehicle, I went into the ditch. Kerman followed me in the ditch. When Armand followed us, he stayed up on the pathway. He was a little bit behind us because he was giving some boxes of 50 cal ammo to Franklin before he got out of the vehicle. Because technically the driver's never supposed to leave the vehicle, but we had an extra guy in the vehicle that day. So, and Cordy could drive. He was our radio operator. Armand waited, fed him some ammo, grabbed his rifle, and then he started following us. And so he was able to shoot the guys that were coming down off the berm.
Like behind you guys.
And was like, hey, we got to go. He's like, hey, there's an RPG. I was like, I remember this clearly because we joke about it. He was here a couple months ago and we were joking about it. I was like, what do you want me to do with that? I don't know. Yeah. He's like, well, if you don't shoot it at them, they're going to shoot it at us. We're having this conversation in the middle of a firefight. And I'm like, fuck it. So I pick up the RPG and I just pointed it and shot it.
Just down the trench?
Down the trench. There was a group of dudes down there. Yeah. And I don't know if it did anything or not, but I know it skipped off the ground. I don't know if it was a good shot or not, but he shot it. And we turned around, we just started running back up the trench, killed a couple more guys that were behind us and got back to the vehicle. And the tanks had moved up the road. So we had to get back in the vehicle and try to catch up to the tanks because we're providing security for the tanks. And Quintero was the guy that was in the turret in the vehicle behind us. And the RPG went in the door, the backseat door on the passenger side, and he's standing in the turret, and the RPG and the shrapnel ripped open his abdomen, and it impacted in Doc Johnson body and blew out the door. Well, when we were getting back to the vehicle, I see Frankie, Corporal Quintero, and he's got blood all down his suit, and he's holding himself like this, and he's Hispanic, and he's ghost white. and he's trying to come up to our vehicle to see if we were okay to give us like. And I'm looking at him, I'm just like, holy cow! And so at that
Oh, so he was
time,
walking towards you in that
yes,
state.
he was trying to come. He was stumbling, and there was a couple other guys in another vehicle or two coming up. Staff sergeant was coming up, my platoon sergeant, Fred Keeney, and was like, "Hey, you got to get Quintero medevac. You got to get him to the hospital. Get him to the corpsman. Get him to the surgeons." Because the Doc Johnson was the corpsman for our group of vehicles, and he was the one that was killed. So they took care of Quintero while we grabbed another truck, our truck, and another truck, and we drove up to the tanks to do another firefight that the tanks had
Like, it wasn't over.
been
Like, you did
doing.
all that.
It
When
was
it,
it was a long it wasn't just a couple minutes. It was
like, yeah, how long was that? Just the trench part of it.
sense of time.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows how long? You know, it's like the last thing that you're keeping track of,
Yeah.
right? And we got up there, and there was another firefight up there, and we had run out of range of our artillery fan, so we had no artillery support because we were at the edge, so they wouldn't shoot as far as they could shoot. I think 29 kilometers or something. We got a call from battalion that you got to come back, that we pushed the envelope of our artillery. And so we fought a little bit more, and then we came back, and then that battle was over. You go into cleanup and security and reorganization. But that was the battalion's first big firefight. We had a couple other small ones before that. It was like day 9 or 10 or something, I think.
And what would happen to, was it Contero is his name?
He's alive and well, yeah, yeah.
No
He
way.
was just down at reunion in the Keys. Talked to him a couple times in the last year. He's doing well, married, kids,
That's
doing
right.
well, yeah. And Kerman, he married Kerman's sister, and Kerman's doing great too. Kerman and Quintero both just retired from the Marine Corps recently.
What did that, going back to what builds that kind of like trust and brotherhood? Like, how were you guys when you came out of that experience?
Yeah, pretty tight, you know, really tight. I mean, we were really close before it, but it's an experience you don't want to wish on anybody ever. You don't ever want to wish to have. But on the backside of it, the outside of like some of the memories and the trauma and whatever, right? The injury, the bond it's like this drug,
Yeah.
you know? It's like, holy cow. Like it's how close you don't talk to them for a few years, and it's just like you love them. You know, more than anything, it's pretty tight, and I've been blessed to have that bond with hundreds of guys just because of the things that we've been through, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting to me too, like it's not like you guys had time to plan this and just the whole like choreography of it, right? You guys going in there, your buddy staying a little bit behind you guys to cover you. Like it's not it's not like you asked him to do that, right? But he just kind of figured out it's the right thing to do because, yeah, didn't want people behind you, and it's kind of cool when people just kind of go into that flow state. Like, they don't have to like give out specific orders telling them what to do, but they just know that this is the right thing to do in that situation, or at least the thing you think is the right thing to do in that situation. Yeah,
You know, it's the thing with training. You train years and years of training, and you can't train for every possible scenario that's going to unfold. You'd be foolish if you even tried to, let alone thought you could. So what you do is you try to pick certain scenarios that are most probably going to happen given an environment, a threat, or whatever that you're going into, and you train those things, and then you train different ways that they unfold. You know, in the Marine Corps, it's like, hey, frontal attack, flanking attack, you know, whatever, assault from fortified position, patrol. Like, you have different sort of templates, but you're not going to find that exact template in a real world scenario because you're fighting a living with a will, right, to adapt. So what you do is you pick those training evolutions, and then you understand like how I want to just train those. But by us spending time training together, we're actually learning how to communicate, how each other
mm,
acts, how each other thinks, feels, and responds, moves, all these intangible things that you don't really list out like as an objective or a result of training, right? A target or goal. And then to take from, excuse me, I don't know, you read the book Outliers, probably you're well
yeah.
read, right? Malcolm Gladwell, he's got this concept called slicing. I use it all the time. I'm getting ready to go do something. Well, I've never done that before. Okay, but if I analyze what I'm about to do, have I done things in the past that have a little slice of it here? Have I done something else that has another little slice of that and then another little slice of that? And so through slicing, I can come up with how to solve this thing that I've never been in. In the planning prior to something, it's a really cool concept. But I believe that when you're with men that have done so much together through training and just living and everything, and it's building up that ability to slice in real time with very little communication or anything, right? Like it's just happening. We're connected to each other in a way, and it's no orders were given like, hey, stay behind me, or hey, do this, or hey, do that. Like people were just reading and feeling, and whether they were aware of it or not, they were slicing from all of our time together and all of our training evolutions together, even though we've never trained for this exact specific, you just do the best you can. But I think about that a lot, like how is slicing important for the prep stages of anything you do, but also understanding how that concept actually unfolds really fast in a massively chaotic environment. And like you're acting off of impulse and instinct and something else.
Yeah, that speaks to that, having that foundation that you can rely on. And there's something really amazing that happens, and we're individuals, but humans obviously are extremely social, and you have the same sense of like music and dancing. We have people like to be like fully coordinated in one activity with sports, whatever it is. There's like we seek that, and these like rare moments that allow you to feel as like just one organism that's acting together to achieve a goal. So yeah, doing something like beyond yourself, and more importantly, like, you know, the other people next to you are also in that same group. And I'm curious, and maybe we can talk a little bit about this, because transitioning to civilian life, and especially again, blame it on whatever, but no technology, this or that. But the reality is like we're much more isolated in civilian life now, where we have fewer opportunities for those kinds of situations where you know you can count on people, where you don't even need to worry about this person behind you. They're gonna look out for everyone's like best interest and not just for themselves. So yeah, I'm curious about that side of it, right? And you spend a lot of time now working with veterans, but I'm curious, yeah, like how has that transition been in that regard, in terms of like the people that you rely on now? You're in communities that are not as cohesive.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot there. I'm growing and learning every day. Working remotely with other people, that's challenging. Being outside of a construct like the military construct, the Marine Corps construct, like having who are you as a human being, that now that that's not there and it's required of you, are you still that same person? Do you, the self-discipline to work at home? Like I'm still learning. It's different. But I would challenge that we're not more isolated. When you said like, hey, now that we're more isolated, blame it on technology, I think we're so much more, have the potential for so much more interconnectivity, but just in these areas. And we're more isolated in these areas. But I wouldn't say, generally speaking, we're more isolated now. If you can sit back and like, how am I more connected in these ways? And I like to always default to that and focus on what we have in common and what we have in difference, or what we have available them instead of what we don't have available. I find it to be way more productive when I'm wired that way. So let's leverage the things that we have. Let's use and optimize the things that we do have for the reasons we do and how they're beneficial. Start there. And then you're looking like, well, what am I missing then? Because these things are bonuses, these things are strength, these things are pluses. Like, so where's the gaps? What then do I need to create, engineer, whatever it is, so that these aren't gaps anymore? Right. So if I'm feeling more isolated in these spaces, well, I should pick and choose some activities to lift those up when those things are appropriate. Like you guys do in your office.
Yeah.
You work a lot remote, like you realize that, like, hey, in one way, it's really productive and effective, and like there's a tremendous amount of advantage and benefit from being able to work remotely. Like you can list them out, but you felt that it was necessary that we need to do an offsite, we need to do a company gathering and bring everybody together, because that's something that we are missing, right? It's not that we're more isolated; it's that these elements are underutilized because we're taking advantage of this stuff. Everything cost benefit. And so I do that, right? Effective, but tie in to it would be the transition, whether it's mine or a lot of people's. I find that the common narrative with veterans, especially ones that are struggling, common narrative is these civilians, these nasty civilians, they don't know what it's like. They don't have this. They don't have that. I can't relate. I don't understand. Like they have it. They don't experience what I had. They're focused on differences. They're focused on the gaps. And if you just focus on the gaps all the time, nothing's happening. The gaps are there. That's like the narrative, common narrative. Like I can't adjust. I can't connect. We don't have anything in common. They didn't sit in a fighting hall. It's like, hey, just stop that, because that's why you signed up, so that they wouldn't have to. Right? Like that's like a common thought. Like I'm fighting for my country, for my sons and my daughters and my people that I love, they didn't have to. Right. And they're doing things so that I can go do this. And it's symbiotic that way. You don't get the luxury then to throw that back in their face, because that's not helping you grow. Right. Because it's not going to change. So instead of looking at differences, look for places that you have common ground. It's like, okay, hey, so and so is just always yapping about blah blah blah. They don't get me. My neighbor's this, the homeowner association that. Like, oh, my boss this, my boss that. It's like, because you're stuck in yesterday, bro. Like, sit down. What do you have in common? You both have wives. You both drive a Ford Raptor. You both like to mow the lawn. You both have kids. You both play softball. You both want to feel love. You both want to be successful. You both want, like, you have all of those things in common. Yet you tend to specifically just keep focusing on this. So it's nothing's holding you back but you. And once you and I can connect on what do we have in common? Like, you weren't in the military. I'm not really successful like you. Like, I'm not in this kind of business. Like, we could list all the things. But when we first met, what did we have in common? We had Matt Davis
Yep.
and we had Rochester. And now look at us now,
Yeah.
right? Like, we focused on the things that we have in common. We build on that. And as we're building on that, appreciation and opportunity for understanding for the things that we don't have in common have an opportunity to grow, right? But if we just, oh, well, you don't know what it's like in the military, and I don't know what it's like to do this, like, and we're just going to sit there and do this. But
Mm.
if you want to build relationships, I mean, that's just a fundamental concept of relationships, building upon the things that individuals have in common. You know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this is, in a lot of ways, like why I started doing this podcast, is to be able to like talk to people and connect with people and find, what are the commonalities across people in many domains. And we focus a lot on just businesses and entrepreneurs, but it's expanded beyond that, because I think it's exactly to your point. There are similarities in everything from like work ethic to team building to, you can find common ground in a lot of ways if only you just, stop and ask some questions and listen.
And a lot of times we got the common ground, but you're looking at it this way and I'm looking at it that way. But it's the common ground. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to increase my perspective, and wow, who doesn't want that? Like, the things that I could learn from. I went to my undergrad studies before I became an officer, and I took mechanical engineering. I was like, why are you doing that? Like, you're never going to use mechanical engineering in in the military, in the Marine Corps, especially if you want to go back in the infantry community. Like, what is that? Well, first, I didn't want to spend money and time to do the whole underwater basket weaving and not benefit from it. Like, it's, if I'm going to be spending some time doing this, like, I want to learn something. I could care less about the mechanical engineering stuff. I am a little bit of a dork. I like spreadsheets. I like data. Science is kind of cool. But I tell everybody that I learned so much about leadership, team building in my undergrad studies trying to be a mechanical engineer
Hmm.
than I did in, not more, but in different ways. And then when I can take the ways that I learned leadership and team building from the Marine Corps, leadership and team building from, the baseball team, the wrestling team, school clubs, whatever. And I get to use how academics in that field of study, team building, project management, relationships, like, now I've got three different, it's all team building and leadership. And it just makes your skill sets more robust. You have a deeper and broader sense of what it is. Yeah, in the military, it's like you're forced to work with somebody else. Da, 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 da. Well, you never really have to deal with some of the dynamics that you have to deal with when you're a college student, having to do these teams because it's your graduation project or something like that. Those challenges give you opportunity for solutions. And now when you're back over here, even though you have solution A and solution B, how the military would do it, you got solution C. And people wonder why, well, solution A and solution B come at high expense and it's frustrating or whatever, whatever, whatever. It's like, well, now I've got solution C. I don't have to have, like, pick the right solution. You've got 5 solutions for a problem. You can pick the best solution. If you only have 2 solutions for a problem, well, you pick the best one. Like, I got a greater chance of having an even better solution, So yeah, we can learn so much from just our different experiences in life and everything once you find a common ground. Sometimes the common ground is a little bit hidden underneath the surface, disguised a little bit, but when you find it, and then you start exploring that. It just feels
Yeah. Well, on that, tell me more about the transition out of the military and into the stuff that you're focusing on now. Like, what was that like when you made that decision to transition, and then yeah, tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing since.
I was 18 years in the Marine Corps and I was going to quit. I was just like, I'm done. I was tired, frustrated. At the time, I didn't realize how much I was actually being affected by, my experiences, traumatic experiences, stress, everything like that. When you're in it, you don't really see how much affected you were by it. I was largely in denial of it. I was just really tired. I worked for a corrupt leadership command, absolutely corrupt battalion commander, colonel. There was a lot of tension.
Corrupt in like
He's
what
just
ways?
a
Like
he's
money
just
wise, or
just corrupt, all morally
uh,
corrupt. Like just a horrible human being. And he wasn't always. He wasn't always. He's a cool cat. And so like in his defense, which I can't believe I'm doing this, he's just suffering from his own stuff too. Right. He's his traumas and everything like that, and it's catching him. So we were probably both in this compromised place that way, and we were just not. But he was criminal. I was just done, and I'm fortunate to have Pat and Healy and a handful of other guys, McCarthy and Joe and senior officers like, hey, don't do that, don't do that. Everything that you've done for your country, everything that you've done, like you've spent 18 years, like not to just do 3 more years, retire. You still have this. You just need a break. You just need to rest. You need to get healthy again. Let's get some of this. I was like, no, I'm done. And I agreed. And then because they said, what was the thing you're going to stay? I was like, I want to go to the Naval Academy. I don't want to be an instructor at the Naval Academy. I want to be surrounded by this institution, this amazing institution, and I want to add value to it and receive value from it and be part of the institution, right? Like not necessarily the Naval Academy, but like the institution of what it. And so I got me orders to go to the Naval Academy to be a company officer, leadership instructor, do a little master's studies in leadership at the University of Maryland.
Before we get to that, like I'm curious about the stress part of it. So you'd assume that an event like that ambush is like the biggest cause of the stress, but it sounds like what you're describing was a lot more mundane stuff that was just accumulating over the years. Like if you were to reflect back, like is it just like the one big thing that really gets to you, or was it like a bunch of other things that were in the moment didn't feel like they're particularly terrible, but just a lot of bad decisions over a long period of time from people that you lost respect from, that you kind of like caused all that buildup.
Yeah, it's like anything, time under tension. Time under tension creates fatigue. Up-tempo deployment, struggling marriage, ended up in a divorce, me growing up. We were all growing up, trying to stretch boundaries. Oh, fatigue, just fatigue. Like you don't like it's not like, hey, I'm tired, but it's just like this with some of the allostatic loading, like just in this energy, emotional space, fatigue, spirituality being questioned, loss of faith in certain things that you held up and you believed in, then you find out like all that's going on. The ambush. I tell people if all the experiences I've had deployed in combat environments on a scale of 1 to 10, that ambush was like a 5, right? We saw things post ambush during OAF 1 that made the ambush look like Sunday afternoon, right? Like there's the terrorist training camps, there's the 5759 Northing. There's so many more. The ambush in Baghdad. There's events in Diwania when we went back for phase 2, Fallujah. I would say every single day in Fallujah bested.
So in
Just
terms
like
of
stress, very highly kinetic, dynamic situation. Like Fallujah, urban environment, almost 30 days fighting day to day, day to day to day. And then some of the big battles, let alone firefights. It wasn't just like, oh, Tosh, like you're really, you got the ambush and there they are. That was one out of 100, 200 events that were on par with that day, right? Um, when we talk about like, what was it that's got you so compromised or in this place? It's all of that, you know? Yeah, horrible leadership. I had the lottery ticket in the Marine Corps. I was blessed with most amazing peers, leaders, subordinate leaders, men. Like, I had one corrupt criminal leader, maybe 3, but that was all in the same command. I know Marines that went their whole career and they were surrounded by mediocre at best human beings, let alone leaders, you know? So yeah, there was a lot of that going on for me. And you just don't realize it. Like the sum total of all those effects, you're just not aware of it until, and the only reason I'm aware of it now, or I'm trying to add it together is because I crashed after I got out about 7 years ago. I just was slowly falling apart, falling apart, falling apart. But I got out of the Marine Corps because I was done. I was just tired. Was going to leave at 18 years. I went to the academy, had an amazing time at the Naval Academy. I worked harder and the op tempo was higher. And the more you worked, the more you gave to the midshipmen, the more they wanted from you. And that was good. It was, it helped me distract me from myself. I don't have to take care of my own shit because I'm helping everybody else. Right.
Was there some element of you helping the next generation that hadn't, they're still very optimistic about everything. They hadn't seen all this shit, and you had a chance to like help them, I don't know, do better, avoid some of the things that you've seen gone wrong.
100%. I mean, that was that was the greatest personal reward. All of these young men and women that just like, they got their future ahead of them, the career. They're like, you want to just give as much as possible, whatever that is, intellectual knowledge, emotional intelligence, compassion, human decency. And you just want to give them as much as you possibly can. I look back at my time at the Naval Academy. It's funny, you talk to Nicole and she's like, yeah, you were miserable. And I'm like, yeah, but I felt so
Mm.
good because I was giving, and yeah, but it was at your expense. And it's like, yeah, well, yeah, but
What are some of these things that you would tell them? Like, if you had to, I don't know, like summarize all this shit they've learned over the years to someone that's in the Naval Academy, what are some of the things that you'd tell them matter?
I would distill like in one thing, it's a no-brainer. The most important thing that I tried to lead forward with, and I think Matt would tell you the same thing. Matt was my right-hand guy, right? He was my senior enlisted leader when I was at the academy. I
Mm.
still call him senior chief, even though he retired as a master chief, but he's in my phone as senior. Be a good motherfucker.
Mm.
And what does that mean? Well, that's be a good human being. Everything else is downstream from that. Just be a good human being. Like, yeah, I get it. You got to focus on your math and you got to focus on your weapon systems and you got to focus on your tactics and you got to focus on your this and like, but man, if you're spending so much time focusing on all of that, that you're not focusing on this.
Mm.
And so it stays there. You got to spend, I don't know if you have 100 points to spend on attributes, like you can't spend all 100 points on all these other things. You should be spending at least spend 5 points on what it is to be a good human being, not the best football player, not the best boyfriend, not the best artist. Like the wisest people spend way more than 5 points. They might spend 50 points. They might spend half of their points on just trying to be a good human being. And that's not what you believe in. It's also consistency between what you believe in and how you show up and your actions that you take.
Mm.
Right? Like anybody can say, oh, well, I'm reading all these books on virtue and da 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 da, and I can recite the this and I can recite the that, and I read the Bible and I go to church, and it's like, okay, cool. But I look at you do look at you do all of these things.
Mm.
It's like you're wasting your money on that because you don't live it. You know what I mean? And so it's the good human being because you believe in the things that you believe in, and you've created the habits and the routines in your life that you actually show up that way.
Mm.
You act that way, even when it's not to your benefit to do so, when it's easier not to, or you're right, like become a quality human being. And I think that was probably the biggest, strongest current underneath the surface of everything that I did at the Naval Academy. And it felt good. And it also was a way of me setting the conditions without knowing it for who I wanted to be after I left, you know?
What do you think about kind of going back to your teenage self that you didn't know what you wanted? And to your point, like it's easy to, read the poster and be like, whatever, courage, integrity, name your values, but they don't really mean anything because you haven't actually lived them. Do you think like it's possible for people to see this in themselves, like to see when they're making mistakes versus having other people point out to them saying like, hey, like you're on the wrong track. Like this is, you might like, do you think that they're consciously like not doing the right thing? Or do you think they just don't know that they're doing it and it takes someone else to point out to them like, hey, you're actually being a bad person right now. Like even that, that leader that you said was corrupt. Like there's some element of like, yeah, like knowing what you're doing versus having someone there to point out your shit. And then it's obviously like on you, like what to do with that information. But I mean, I'm curious. You're like, what do you think the role is of like, and then to some extent, like you as a teacher in the academy, right? To be able to like point out some of these things that they're doing wrong, not just like on the technical side, but like on the the moral side of them.
Yeah, I think everybody has the same timeline, but we're all on different cycles and our cycles are indifferent. Some people, as a young teenager, I think I was a little bit behind the curve in emotional development, intelligence, right? Self awareness. Some people were way ahead of their time. Some people spend a lot of time in this phase, less this phase. Some people spend a greater amplitude of quality in this phase or lower in that phase, right? But we all go through the same stuff. Just our timelines are just it's just like this, but all the things are there. Where was I going with that? As somebody that's a leader or a mentor, coach, trainer of other people, I've found coaches, mentors, trainers, whatever, leaders, that they're so focused on who you could be so far out, right? If this is who I am and you're my mentor and you're so focused on this Tosh here because you see all the potential or you see all the things that are wrong and need to be fixed and everything, but you're not, then you're not relevant to me right
Mm,
here. You're not relevant to me right here. The best of the best coaches and mentors that I've had were relevant to me like right here so that I would grow into it. And it wasn't that they were naive or ignorant or unaware or that they didn't plant seeds for this person, this person, this person, this person. It was that they spent their time meeting me with where I was at, understanding the world that I was in. So like, am I going to yell at you for doing this? Like, look at some of the stuff that the midshipmen did at the Naval Academy. And it's like, yeah, but this is where they're at in their development as a 19-year-old, right? Like, okay, so why am I going to treat them this way when they need to be treated this way so I can meet them with where they're at because I
mhm,
understand the environment, the situations, the energy that they're in. And I'm going to lay some seeds out for them because we know when they're out of that environment or when they do grow up or when they do meet where I'm trying to guide them to, they're going to need that stuff to help keep pulling them along the way. Right. So many coaches like sees in the CrossFit gyms and they're trying to teach people, hey, like they're doing, I don't know, clean. And they get this coach and they love the cleans. Their favorite movement's the clean. And they get their class comes in for the day. And hey, we're doing cleans. And the coach is so fired up. And the coach just got done with going to like some special
no,
course academy on cleans, right? And they're so fired up to wax the knowledge that they know that they've received. They're so excited. And they got this one person at the gym and they're not really in it to they're not going to the gym to be the best power cleaner in the world or squat cleaner in the world or whatever. They're just going because they like the community, because they just need to do something every single day to feel part of something, feel good about themselves, whatever, whatever, whatever. But this coach, he wants them to be the best clean and he's not going to be effective. And so it sits there and, well, you got to have your knees and you're pulling too early and you got to land on your heels and you got to do this and you got to do that. And if you did this and you become overwhelmed. And when you become overwhelmed, it's just like best thing that that coach could do is understand the needs and the desires of the individual. Know that, hey, the stuff that they're saying is good and will be valuable for them, but spend the time right there with them, meet them with where they're at, challenge them just a little bit further, right? And just give them one thing, just improve one thing. Or better than improving one thing, just make one thing suck a little bit less. I use the saying all the time, suck less, because I get tired of people telling me, Tosh, you got to do more. You got to do more. You got to be better. You got to do more. It's just like, it's exhausting. But when you tell me, hey, Tosh, can you just do a little bit less of this? Just suck a little bit less at this. It's like, oh man, that feels refreshing. I
yeah,
just need to do less. It's wordplay, but it's received differently. So meet people with where they're at, but understand who they are and what they're doing, where they're going, and trust that there's going to be somebody else. Because if you're doing your job with your peers, right, when you're not there anymore, they're going to pick up where you left off. But there's an ego thing with individuals, and sometimes I think coaches or mentors they just so want to they're coaching shift the topic. You get a guest speaker. Hey, you're doing a big, huge ball for your company and you want to bring a guest speaker in because you're going to do a nice dinner. You're going to do some of this and everything. And oh, hey, we got someone's going to be the guest speaker. Guest speaker gets up there and they talk. And you ever sit back and like, are you talking for us, or are you talking for yourself? Because all I hear you doing is like, you're just feeding yourself, your ego. Like, you want to wax this, you want to wax that. Like, I'm paying you to come here to talk, to give value to the audience. But we've seen it, right? You've seen good guest speakers and you've seen guest speakers that are like, yeah, not so much. And those ones are usually because they're talking to for themselves for whatever reason.
Yeah. I one of my friends was a Green Beret, and he's an actor, playwright. He's written books, and he's ultimately like studying storytelling. And one of the things that he does before going into to give a talk, he's got this little mantra. That's the first part is to the very first part is like you have to remind yourself that you have time. So he just repeats like, I have time, I have time, I have time, even if you don't. Yeah, like you're just thrown into a situation, you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, but like just like getting yourself in that mindset that I can do this. And then he, reminds himself of who he is and why he deserves to be there. But then the last thing is, what do they need from me? And asking yourself that question, like, I'm here for them. What do they need from me? To have that perspective shift, that it's not about me. Like, yes, I'm awesome, I'm great, I deserve to be here, I should be confident in that position, but it's ultimately like a generosity to others, and they wanted me to be here. I have to do, like, I'm here for them. And I found it to be really powerful to put yourself in that mindset, because a lot of stuff is about us and we're trying to improve ourselves and do all these things. But in many situations, like reminding yourself that, no, like, I'm here for them. Why are they here? What they need from me? And hopefully being able to deliver a little bit on that. But it's obviously like hard to remember these things. And I love like what you're, the point about meeting people where they are, instead of just giving them the answer. We see this even with our clients and whatever, the hedge fund world, where if they ask a question and if you just give them the answer, like if we've done that work for another client and you just give it to them. And we did this like one time, and it just like didn't care, even though like it was great, like the work itself was great. But what we found is that you want to like rebuild the thing, even though we know exactly where we're going to end up because we've done a similar project before. We know what the answer is.
Mhm.
But if we're building it together and you're asking questions and you're contributing in that journey, it is so much more productive. You get so much more out of that than if someone were to just give you the. I mean, it's silly, but it's the same thing out in school. If someone just have a test tomorrow, someone just gives you the answer key. It's like, okay, whatever. Like
Mhm.
I don't get anything out of it. Versus having gone through that process of getting myself to the point where I can answer those questions, it's so much more valuable. And but yeah, in life, you look at it, I've made all those mistakes that you're about to make. Like I want to give you the answer, like just do this, and that's the answer. But you gotta, yeah, to your point, you gotta like meet them where they are, let them make some of those mistakes, take them through that journey. And like exactly what you're saying, it can still be like, like 10 chess moves ahead of them, like you know where they're gonna end up, but doesn't mean you give them that, just give them like that next move.
Exactly. It's a process. It's given ownership. The attention of the experience is what creates the actual knowledge or the learning or the growth. Give them a chance to learn it from their perspective because you've learned it from yours. So when you articulate it, you're articulating it in how you've arrived at understanding it. Can you get them to understand what you understand through their lens, right? Like that's the art.
Yeah.
That's the art.
So okay, tell us more about. So after that, you when the transition, so to the work that you're doing today, what was that like? 'Cause it sounds like you went through some more shit after the military before you started like reflecting on that and helping others. Yeah, what's the story there?
Tired. Uh with Nicole, amazing woman, didn't have financial problems. She made good money, was in love, fit, got a great social network. I mean, didn't have struggles, right? It wasn't like, oh man, I got to find a job. Oh, I got to learn a new trade. I just sort of was able to just live and be and enjoy the transition as a process instead of an obstacle that you have to complete. I started working for her for CrossFit. I was seminar staff as a coach, trainer. I did some special projects for Greg and Dave. So I just had a really easy that way. But what was hard was I didn't have to like look at myself and my experiences. And they're still back there and they weren't being processed healthy. They were just kind of like back there, boxed up, put in the closet, locked up, the whole 9 yards, and thinking that you're fine, thinking you're high functioning because I'm doing all these other things, right? I got money, I got a nice car, got a hot wife, I got a really fun job, I got lots of friends, whatever, 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 whatever. I'm fit. And this stuff wasn't getting looked at.
Mm.
I was like, "Ah, I was just going to leave it like that. I don't need to look at that." And I started to like, hey, being a seminar staff trainer, it just wasn't filling something up. So I stopped doing that. And when we moved here to Colorado, it's like, oh, cool. I'm surrounded by nature. I get time to reflect. I'm doing all the health things. And then I'm in isolation. Then all of a sudden, like that noise just started to come back out and drinking heavy. I went through ugly custody battle with my ex-wife. Health started to decline a little bit, some skin cancer,
Mm.
things like that. When I retired, I just pretty much just didn't go to work on Monday. I was working for Dan. I did a couple of my checkout things that were mandatory, but I didn't do all of them. I didn't register with the VA or nothing like that. Really, a lot of it with the visitation rights and custody stuff with my ex-wife was a tremendous amount of stress. And then it became really expensive with lawyers. Throw on the health, throw on some family, throw on some other things that are starting to happen, getting phone calls, so-and-so killed himself, so-and-so killed himself. Phone call came in that my radio operator, John Hartwick, Big Country, he had killed himself, and that was pretty hard for me. He's a radio operator, company commander and a radio operator are pretty tight, especially in that environment. And it was like, well, why didn't he just call if he was having problems? Just reach out and talk. Like, I'm always there. Dealing with my own stuff, it all just kind of like just happened. I was the You couldn't touch me, right? I was unfazable, and then all of a sudden you are until you aren't, and you can't pick any one thing. It's just the combination of the right things that end up get you. I went down to the VA to get an intake appointment because all I wanted to do was have the VA benefits, medical benefits that I had earned so that I could take care of the skin cancer stuff.
Mm.
I wasn't looking for disability. I wasn't looking for anything because it was like, hey, I'm fine. Look at me. I've never, like, guys didn't come home from combat. Guys have lost arms and legs. Guys have these significant psychological traumas. I don't have any of that. I don't need to register with the VA. I don't need to take money away from them. And that's the way I was thinking. I don't want to be labeled as a money digger, just trying to pull as much money as I can out of the system because whatever, like there's a lot of people that are doing that and you don't want to be associated with them. So anyways, I'm at the VA hospital and the doctors were doing the intake and everything. He must have sensed something because then you go to the general guy, and then they says, okay, you're gonna go see this person, this person, this person, this person, this person for your stuff. And I wasn't enrolled in the system, so I had to go through and fix all that stuff. And other thing was going on was faculties. I was forgetting a lot of things. I was remembering things that didn't happen. I was stuttering. I couldn't communicate thoughts. I was bumbling words. I was like, what's going on? Like, you could start to see it and deteriorating quicker and quicker. Anyways, one of the guys that the doctor told me to go visit was an Army Sergeant Major. When I walked into his office and sat down, we started talking. And the next thing you know, I find myself like bawling on his couch. And I think that guy probably saved my life, like saved my
Mm.
life. I wasn't going to kill myself or whatever, but like he was this Army Sergeant Major. Things that he said and how he said it, I was like, wow, I need help. And I tell people all the time, wasn't that I didn't know I needed help, but I didn't want it. So it's like, hey, the first step, all these smart people, the first step is to know when you need help. And it's like, yeah, well, that's not the big steps. You wanting help is what makes it happen. You knowing you need it, like, yeah, I need help. You know what I mean? It's almost a given. It's like you accepting that you actually want help. And that's what happened in the office. And so then just a really stressful 2 years of going through appointments and having to dig up old shit from the past. And then it's like you're on this pipeline for your treatment stuff. And then you're on this pipeline for disability ratings. And it's like, you got to go see the psychologist over here. Okay, you got an appointment with a psychologist. Like, hey, I just talked to one 2 weeks ago. Like, what's the same one? No, you didn't. You didn't. This is the other pipeline. It's very confusing, especially when you're compromised in your head, didn't understand the system, frustrated with it. And then you go talk to the other psychologist and it just keeps bringing up old wounds. It's like, I don't want to talk about this. You have to talk about it. Otherwise you can't get the treatment. I don't want to talk about it. Just help me. Like, it's part of the treatment. And it's just really hard. And not broke like I was, shitting myself in the corner in the closet someplace, like, but I just broke. Like, and since then, I've been more proactive about like, hey, try this and go do this and go do that. And coming out of that journey, I started a nonprofit because I didn't understand what was going on with me. I didn't want to understand. I didn't feel like people understood. You're hearing being told all the right things by these super smart people, but this is like, yeah, I don't understand it, and you don't get it, and you're missing the point. And so I was like, hey, well, I started helping veterans out, creating events out of my own pocket. And then Bill was like, hey, that's not sustainable, Tosh. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I got to do it. He's like, well, why don't you start a nonprofit? It's like, I didn't want to start a nonprofit. I don't think very highly of nonprofits, but that was again ignorance. It was right around the time that the Wounded Warrior Project was getting beat up for mismanagement of funds and criminal activities and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to be a nonprofit. Like all they do is, how come the people that I know that run nonprofits are super rich? It's just, you know what I mean? I just had this weird the way I was connecting things, and we'll do it different. If you don't like the way that it's being done, same as mine. We talked about a little while ago. Okay, well, if you think you can do it
Mm.
better or whatever, do it. So I did. I started the nonprofit, finishing up 6 years. We're going on year 7 in January. And I wanted to share the way that I've learned to think and reflect in the way that I communicate, absent of all these things that were distracting or limiting for me. I just want to show up the way that I most needed to be shown up from somebody else, bring my resources, my social resources, the way that I think, I said that before, and some of the things that I've done to people. Because everybody else is doing it this way. There's other people that are doing it different, whatever, but like nobody's doing it, not nobody, but doing it this way. Just do it your way. And if you do it your way, you'll draw the people that are attracted to that. And so I did. And I'm drawing the people that I know is so refreshing. It's cool that you understand that you speak that way. It's not that these people aren't doing great stuff. It's that they're doing it in a way that's not drawing that audience to them so they get unserved. And so almost feel obligated then to do it this way so that maybe some of the people that aren't being served by all of these ways will say, hey, there's value here. And we'll be able to collaboratively get more and more people and help them.
How like how are you doing this different? Like if you were back in that VA when you walked in or looking for skin cancer treatment, then you realized that you needed or that you wanted to get more help. And then I imagine that experience was not ideal. Like if it was you now talking to you from back then at that VA, how 'cause it's yeah, it's obviously really hard to get people to want that and then to be able to form that level of trust, which we were talking about before, to be to feel comfortable, to open up, to try to do that work. Yeah, how do you approach that differently now, knowing what you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just consistency, everything that we talked about, and the way I frame things, meet people with where they're at. You go into the VA is not designed in the structured clinical setting, like to meet
Mm,
somebody with where they're at. It's like, hey, we got to do this, and this. It's like, yeah, that person's never going to do any of that because they're not in that place to accept
mm,
it yet. I never was until that Army Sergeant Major. He met me with where I was at and allowed me to slowly, right? And then I'm surrounded by loved ones that are working with me that way. And so that's what I do is set up events and around an activity or an interest to bring people in and they know what it is. And then you just start talking to them and it opens up this and it opens that and you meet them with where they're at and you build, we have 3 pillars: connection, growth, and service. Connection, growth, and service. And I think that this connection piece is the number one ingredient. It's like develop deep, meaningful, authentic relationships with other people, build the trust, build the rapport, the credibility. And then in doing that, that individual actually feels understood and seen in a way that it's not anywhere else. And then you excite them towards growth, whatever that is, personal growth through whatever it is, right?
mm.
Hey, go to the therapist. Hey, go get hyperbaric treatment. Hey, go see this. Hey, let's get you that. Let's just get you to another event so that you can experience more community and connection, right? That's the growth piece of it. And then the service piece. So connection, growth, and service. The deeper we're connected with each other, that's a support network all of its own. That excites you for growth, some personal growth to do the things that you need to do to heal or evolve. And when you do that, exciting you towards service, this sense of service and understanding it's not only service to others, right? And I'm not talking military service. I'm just like being that good motherfucker for somebody else, or being a good husband, or being a good wife, or being a good daughter, or whatever it is that like that act, that's an act of service. And also, it's not exclusive, like serve yourself.
Mm.
Are you doing the things in your life that actually serve you well? Right? Does doing all these drugs, or does drinking all this whiskey, or does watching all this porn, or does like constantly going for these super long runs, or just ignoring the things that you need to talk about because you're, overlaying that with excessive fitness, or sitting on the couch and eating potato chips, like whatever it is, both positive and negative, surrounding yourself with nature and isolation, like, is that really serving you well? Like, is it serving you? Sure. But like taken to excess, anything that's good, I didn't realize, like, I know when I start to get this weird feeling, I'm just like, something's off, something's off. Well, yeah, I haven't left the house. I've stayed in this beautiful yard surrounded by nature, the views,
It's
the
amazing.
dogs, right? My safe place for 6, 7 days. I've had no human contact in the real world down there. Now, while that can be frustrating at times, sometimes I'll just be feeling off. I'll get in the car and I'll go down to town and I'll have a burger just to get away, feel different energy and breathe the different air and be stimulated in a different way. It's like, hey, does that not mean that being up here in this sort of paradise isn't valuable? Sure it is. But doing it excessively or too long, is that really serving you? So this sense of connection, growth, and service, and then it just cycles itself. The more you serve, the more excited you are to grow, so you can serve in greater capacity, serve yourself in greater capacity, heal to grow more, creates deeper connections. The deeper connections reinforce, and it's just this. So those are the three pillars that I look at all the time, everything that we're doing in our way, not that it's better than anybody else. It's just the way that we do it, and the people that find it valuable, they'll come. Instead of trying to be what people need, be who you are to your best sense. And then the people that you most need to be around or most need you, they will come to you, that's taken straight out of like 101.
Yeah.
You know,
And I guess on that note, for anybody watching, I guess I'm on both sides. What from someone that wants that help now, what would you say to them? And then also from people that want to help contribute to what you're building, what would you say to those people too?
People that want the help, you're recognizing that you're in this place, and you could be as little functioning or as high functioning as possible, but like recognizing that you want help, and then committing to wanting help, regardless of where you're at on that spectrum. You got to do it. Something. You just got to do something. Figure it out, right? Like sign up for an event, or go do this. Get a buddy. Hey, can we do this together? Right? You got to get that first one-off cases. There'll be somebody there that grabs you, say you're coming to this, right? That could happen, but that's generally not. It's like, okay, if you want something, when you want something, Matei, like you usually do something, right? So do something, whatever it is. Pick up the phone, send a text, send an email, sign up for an event. And it doesn't have to be with big fish, just anything. But that sometimes that very first step is the hardest. But once you do it, little is just a little tiny bit, that gets the momentum going. Because if you sit around waiting for somebody to force you to do it, that's embedded in it is its own fail, because you got the out already. Well, you made me do it. You don't get to have the ownership and
Mhm.
all the self sense. I chose to do that. I chose to do that. And if you're somebody that sees somebody that's what they need to do, you grab them and pull them by the collar and make them do it without them knowing that that's what you're doing.
And
The art piece, right? Convincing you to, so that you can take the credit for yourself for doing that, because that's really important. And, to the second part of the question, I believe in what we're doing. There's days I wake up and I'm like, why am I doing a small business for profit? I'm on my own to keep the lights on. Why am I running a nonprofit? Why am I trying to do all this stuff? Why am I doing all this work for myself? I'm so exhausted. I have these bad days. And I just say, hey, Tosh, like, I got to quit on, or I just want to stop. Like, hey, tomorrow will be better. Just ride through the day. Don't make any decisions tomorrow. And then inevitably I wake up the next day and it's like, I'm so glad I didn't decide to like just shut down Big Fish or just shut down Crooked Butterfly, because something was going on, right? Never make decisions when you're on a high or when you're on an absolute low, right? Like recognize when you're on a high, delayed important decisions, because that's buyer's remorse, right? Honeymoon regret. And then when you're on a really, really low, don't make life-changing decisions because most of the time they're irreversible. If you're making them when you're on a low, like just see the sunrise tomorrow and see where we're at, you know? But I believe in what we're doing. So every time I go through that cycle, it's just like there's no way I'm just gonna work harder today because I lost yesterday, and what we're doing as a foundation is so important. And it's not measured because we have thousands of people that are going through programs or because we make it. It's measured because we have people that are finding tremendous value in stories that, like, yeah, saved my life, changed my life, saved my marriage. I'm not going to be corny and say, if I just change one person's life, it'll be like, I'm not going to say that because that's actually bullshit. You know what I mean? But it's that sentiment, and I'm surrounded. Sometimes I think I do it selfishly because I feel so good about my life and who
Mm,
I want to be and how I want to keep growing and keep serving others. So yeah, that's why I do it. That's why I keep doing it.
I love it. Yeah, that's yeah. Like I said, it's not easy. It's fulfilling to not just you, but to all the people that you're helping. How do you balance that with the for profit? And I guess maybe tell us a little bit more about Cricket Butterfly and what you're doing there.
Yeah, Crooked Butterfly, I started before the nonprofit. It's me creating activities, events for people that they want to learn how I think or why I think the way I think, leverage my experiences for themselves, challenge themselves, learn leadership, increase mental toughness is the cool phrase these days, resiliency. And I enjoy that. I love physical activity. I love adventuring, and I use that stuff to help people be better people. Again, be a good
Yeah.
human being. It's like, okay, but it just so happens that I'm going to dangle this lure out. People that like that lure are going to come, and you have to have some sort of attractant. And so that's what I do. People come to events all the time and like whatever they're coming for the event for because they need a hard challenge in their life, because they just love physical beatdowns, because they're lost, because they heard from somebody else that it'll be life changing. Like, it doesn't matter the reason. Everybody leaves saying, holy shit, that was so much more. I got so much more. Well, what is it that you got? I don't know, but it's in here.
Well,
Uh,
what is the event? What's the physical activity?
the big ones we do are called Diesel Days. They're 24-hour physical events. And I teach this framework called Checking In with the Left Hand. It's a framework that I kind of designed when you find yourself compromised or struggling or in a really amazingly challenged or frustrating situation or whatever. It's like, hey, just pick a finger on your hand and it represents something. And then walks you through things to pull you out of more of an emotional space to get you into a rational space and realize like, oh, wow, like it's not as bad as I think it is, or it is as bad as I think it is, but now I'm not reacting from an emotional place. I have these things that I can do to change or improve my situation instead of just sitting there pointing at how shitty my
Mm,
situation is. I was talking to a gentleman, team guy, Clint Bruce, never served with him, but we got connected somehow. We were talking on a call and he's amazing. He's got a great way with words. And it's like, what are you doing, Tosh? And we're talking. And he's like, wait a minute. What I hear you doing, what I hear you saying is that you're taking lessons from the battlefield and the ball field and you're making them appropriate to the boardroom and the breakfast table. And I'm like, yeah, shit, that's what I'm saying.
it's great. Yeah.
I don't believe that you need to have 4 different playbooks, one for your battlefield, one for your ball fields, right? Battlefield, not necessarily combat battlefield, but we all got battlefields or places that were in conflict. Ball field, your pastime, your place of expression, release. Boardroom, your business. Or I tell people all the time, my boardroom is every time I go down to Boulder, right, and deal with strangers. That's my boardroom. And your breakfast table, meaning in your family life, friends life, the people that you love and you try the people that you eat breakfast with and you just have deep relationships with, right? You don't need 4 different playbooks to navigate challenge, struggle, conflict. One playbook. I'm a consistency guy. One playbook and it's checking in with the left hand. It doesn't matter what arena you're working with. You pull out, you're checking in with the left hand. You understand what I call the mind's mind, and you go through that, and it allows you to be better in that situation than you would have been otherwise. So that's what we do these days. We do just a couple of events, a winter play thing, we run laps. I do some individual coaching. I coach teams. I write up subscription program for people that like working out. You just 3 workouts a month, but it's not about the workout itself as it is about me explaining why the workout's designed, what's the intent behind it, what are things to think about before, during, and after the workout. Right? It's not just anybody can sit down and write on a piece of paper, do this workout today. The bulk of the work is all that other stuff around it.
Yeah, I'm curious about that piece of it because we just came off of a company offsite, and there's obviously in a lot of our jobs, you're just sitting at a desk. Sometimes you're just alone in your home office, and yet there's something just so primal about physical activity. And no matter how much you try to replicate it with whatever the game you're playing or any kind of like mind games, it's not probably not a good substitute for the actual physical activity. And yet, in a corporate situation, you have people of different sort of physical abilities. But I'm curious, like how you think about that and how you incorporate that into what you're doing, because I don't know, I'm coming more towards the conclusion that you need to do some version of that. Like on our offsite, like we went whatever just for a hike, and it was pretty dicey in some areas because it was like washed out and you're walking on like a foot and a half of a trail, and there's like a bit of a cliff on the other side. And we had all sorts of people that some of them have not really hiked before. And then you come off of it, it's like, wow, that was scary, but it was also kind of awesome that now that we finished it. And yeah, I would love to do more of that in these like corporate settings. I'm curious, yeah, how you feel about working out as it relates to everything else in terms of like, betterment of the individual or of the team.
We're physical beings, and doing physical stuff elicits different chemicals and creates different opportunities for connection and in different ways. Something very physical can be reached back to. You're in the future, you can reach back to it and remember and recollect. Physical space, right? I call it a shared common experience. It doesn't matter what the physical event is, but the actual act of having to do something with somebody else to whatever level of intensity, right? That's not about the level of intensity, but creating that shared common experience that creates opportunity for connection and bonds to understand somebody in a different way. There's so much energy that's being communicated between two people besides just through vision and voice, right? Or touch, right? Like to create the opportunity for that stuff to happen that we're not even aware that we're picking up with each other to create these bonds. Our diesel days, right? It sounds pretty intense. It's 24 hours of working out. Yeah, but it's scalable. The event meets you with where you're at. We get people that are world-class athletes. We get people that are 70 plus years old. We've got 15-year-old young lady that are allowed to come do it because her mother went through it. We have people with injuries. We have people that are here because they're just lost in life, because they just need a check mark on their resume to say that they did something because they wanted to do the hardest thing they've ever done in their life. Had a gentleman that was almost 600 pounds. We had all kinds of different people come. And then when they all come, it's like, the event is the exact same for each person to the degree that you can shut that door if you want, to the degree that they're able to do it. And it's the fact that they're working at their threshold there with somebody else that's working at their threshold or their threshold.
Wow.
And we're doing it together. Shared common experience, like the foundations of community.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. You can't be like, so you're on guard right now. I'm on guard right now. You're on guard right now. We've all got our walls up. Manicuring everybody's perception of us. We're protecting certain things. We got our walls up, if you want to use that analogy, right? When you start to do something physical, you're occupied, you forget to keep your guards up, you start to fatigue. And so the resources that you're spending that you're not aware of, right? Like the behind the scenes on your computer that's using up resources because you've got some application running and it's taking away your computing power. Those start to close down because the physical world is requiring the energy from that application. So it recoups it. The walls come down. Now we've got an opportunity for genuine, authentic communication, conversation, meeting each other, meeting yourself. How many people have their walls so built they don't even know themselves? They just know who they think of themselves. And so it doesn't matter what the event, a physical event is, there's an art to creating it, of course. Like you're not just gonna, like, you have to be smart, but there's some
This is like 24 hours continuous of a workout. That sounds awesome.
We've never had anybody quit. Over 160 people go through our course,
shit, okay.
the Diesel Day course. Not one person has quit.
Did you do them here in Denver? Or do you travel?
right here, host you. So you come up here to the house, we host you.
You said you had 160 people?
Not all at
Okay,
once,
okay.
but over the course of our diesel day, all the
Yeah.
diesel days that we've done,
How many people do you normally want to have at once?
I think the sweet spot's like 8.
Okay.
We done diesel days for 2 people before because a cancellation or 2, and then it's like, oh man, like I'm doing it. Like you lose money,
Yeah.
but you don't lose value because you're doing something really incredible for people. And we've had diesel days for 12, 15. We've got a corporate event coming up this late spring for a company out of Boston that they're bringing 15 of their senior level managers and various different physical capacity, but it's not about them working out to get a good workout. It's about creating an environment where they can get to know each other and learn each other because it's going to translate to them being better leaders and work together as a team. It's ultimate team building.
That sounds awesome. I
Yeah,
feel like we know a bunch of people in New York would want to come do something like this.
should
Yeah,
come
yeah,
for
Matt
sure.
should come. Yeah. He's got no excuse.
Yeah.
We'll do something. Okay, maybe we can end on a topic that we've sort of skirted on a bunch during this, but I think this is obviously very important, which is like family and kids in particular. So I have 2 young kids. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son, and I I'm curious to get your parenting advice because we talk a lot about service and connections to people, but in these kinds of settings, like the family is almost on the back burner, even though you may, like mention it a bit in the beginning. But the reality is, like, it's just the 2 of us here. Like my kids are at home. I haven't seen them in an entire week. And yes, we're doing a lot of this stuff for them. Also, if I'm being honest, I'm doing a lot of this for myself. And at the end of the day, like they're like, the most important people. And we know that. And we don't, I was talking to somebody about this, about like the fact that I was working on my own, like my story and like all the stuff that got me to today, the good and the bad. And large part of that is, I was born in Romania. I came to the US as a kid. I've never really talked to my parents about their version. I mean, you hear these stories in the household, but I've never sat down like this, right? To just be like, tell me. And I'm doing it with, like people that we've met once. And so, yeah, it's like, the family side of it tends to be on the back burner when we're out there, like trying to like, connect with and serve other people. So I'm curious your thoughts on that as a dad and what's that's meant for you as a father and what advice you might have for someone like me.
I don't know if it's advice. I can't give you advice. I give you my perspectives, maybe. It's just our family, our most loved ones are the ones that we take the most for granted because they're there. Or it's the unconditional love that'll always be there. So you take it for granted because it's gonna be there. I remember not to take it for granted. Every moment that you have, you make it the best possible moments. Best possible doesn't mean you always have to. My son taught me this lesson 7 years ago. He must have been 12. What do you
How
want
old
to
are your
do? What do
kids
you want to
now?
do? My oldest is 21. No, my son is 21. My oldest is 29. She just turned 30. My youngest is 18. Being a long distance dad through divorce, you want to make the most of every moment you have with them. And so I'd fly out to DC once a month and we'd spend the weekend. It's like, okay, what do you guys want to do? I was, we're going to go to this. We're gonna do this. What do you guys want to do? What do you want to do? Because it was like, hey, I got to make the most of this time. And my son, 12 years old, is like, yeah, hey, maybe can we just hang out in the hotel room? Just hang out. We don't have to be doing anything, Dad. I just want to be together. And be together didn't mean that you were sitting there on your phone and I was sitting here watching TV. It meant that we were together. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Doing that, just being really intentional about you are the thing that matters most right now with the amount of time that we have, whether it's 1 minute or 24 hours over this day. Like, let's make the most out of that. I think about that all the time. This is my 12-year-old son teaching me that. So take it for granted, making the most of every minute. When you are out talking and doing all like, what things are you learning from those experiences, or what gifts are you receiving from those moments when you're not with them that you can metabolize and then give to them? So then so they are benefiting from this conversation or that conversation or you and that experience because you metabolize it in a way that you can feed it to them so that it is for their value. And then
mhm.
it becomes less neglecting and selfish. You're actually serving them. So you're not only out here running a business and helping build teams and strangers and gaining knowledge from people, you're for you or for them, like you're doing it for your kids and your wife, your family as well. And then I think maybe the last thing I think about all the time is, and again, it's like meeting people where they're at, the conversation we had before about coaches, mentors, and it's pulling in another saying. It's like, be the man that you most needed to be when you were your age now, right? Well, be the person, be the energy, right? Be the spirit of who your son or your daughter needs for where they're at right now, right? It's the father who like, you can't do that. You'll never be anything in your life. You need to do this, you need this, because he's trying to make their 14-year-old son be 21. And you're cheating him out of the 7 years of process that's so valuable, and they can't quite touch it yet. It's too far of a jump, right? If your son's 14 and they're going through this in life, like show up as the person that they most need, right? At that moment with where they're at. And it doesn't necessarily mean always a hug or a candy bar. It could mean a spanking, or I don't even know if you can spank anymore these days, but like it could mean being grounded or phone taken away. Like, one of the things that the men used to always tell me when they'd come into my office and they did something and I'd have to punish them for it, right? And it's like, all right, hey, you're guilty. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to take away half a month's salary for 3 months. I'm going to reduce you in rank. You're going to do, 15 days of restriction. Sir, like, come on, how can you do that to me? I've got a wife and she's got kids and I don't have to have daycare. And they try to make you feel guilty. And you don't want to in your heart, but that's the thing that they most need right now, is to be held accountable for their actions. And I know it's going to hurt and suck. And it's like, well, you should have thought about that. And then you can use that as a teachable moments. But like giving somebody what they most need or best would need sometimes doesn't feel good in the moment, but it's because you're doing it with intention and thought, right? And not without thought of, okay, when I do this to this person and I create these problems, how am I going to put some resources in to help solve those problems so they can still learn the lessons without having the catastrophic effects of the consequences that their actions and their punishment have just now created. Like, I want to punish you so you can feel the appropriate consequences that you need to have as teachable moments so that you can grow how you need to grow without you falling off the cliff. So I'm going to put a bumper plate right there for you, but it's still going to allow you to learn. You know what I mean? So when I say be the person that you most needed in that moment, it's not always touchy-lovey, right?
No.
The concept of that, those are the things I think about today. And I wish I'd thought about them 20 years ago, but I'm glad that I'm thinking about them today. And I hope that 20 years from now, I'm thinking about things that I'm not thinking about today, because that means I'm on a trajectory of growth.
Well, Tosh, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
So good to
for
see you
speaking with
again.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
this was great. And we'll get Matt to join one of these things.
Yeah.
Shout out to Matt
Yeah,
for
for sure.
connecting us.
We're going to see you in Argentina.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's a couple months away yet, but you got to get hot on solving that.
Awesome. And yeah, it sounds like we should do one of these, the Diesel Days?
These days, yeah,
Diesel Days.
they're cool. Here we socialize for a night. I feed you, I home cook for you. We sleep in these cool canvas wall tents with carpet and electricity and everything like that. And get up the next morning, have a big breakfast. Well, in the evening, we do the intellectual property. It's about an hour and a half long of like teaching some stuff and exploring. And you work out for 24 hours. And then afterwards, you think you'd be ridiculously fatigued, but you feel so alive. I get people all the time I just got an email a couple days ago from somebody that went through a diesel day 2 years ago. Hey, I just wanted to check in. I had this thing happen. What we talked about at diesel day last, 2 years ago in March, like, whoa, 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 it's just serving me. I didn't even know that I'm connecting it in so many different ways now. And I'm like, yeah, you draw the lessons from it that are going to serve you today, but the seeds have been planted so that tomorrow's tomorrow. All of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I got that here too.
Yeah. Like that's slicing stuff that you were talking about. It's
Yeah.
like having that now in your foundation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd love to do it. So we should
Yeah, it'd be fun.
talk about that too. Try to loop in some of my colleagues who never know what's gonna hit them, and it's like, okay, yeah, let's work out for 24 hours. What could go wrong? Asha, thank you so much.
Yeah,
This
appreciate
was
you,
this
man.
was great, and thanks for having us.
Headed back home tonight now, right?
Yeah, yeah, we're we're going after the. Well, no, actually, we're staying tonight in Denver, and we're flying out tomorrow morning.
Cool.
Yeah, I have dinner with a couple of people that I know here, and then
Yeah.
we'll fly out tomorrow first thing.
Perfect, man.
Yeah,
Well,
cool,
good to
man.
see you,
Yeah,
man.
this was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, yeah, this was great.
I enjoy talking to somebody that is cool to talk to,
Yeah.
you know?
No, this was, yeah, this was cool.